I used to think I was helping my family until I realized they weren't asking because they had no choice. They were asking because I never said no. And the worst part? I didn't even know when I stopped being a daughter and became their solution. The call came at 11:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I was already in bed, lights off, trying to sleep. And when my phone lit up, I just stared at the screen for a second. It was my mom. I didn't feel surprised. I didn't feel worried. I felt tired.
You already knew?
Yeah, that's the part that scares me now. I didn't even ask, "Is everything okay?" I just picked up and waited. There was a pause on the other end. Not long, just enough to feel familiar. And then she said it. "Hey, can you send me $800? Just this once."
Just like that?
Just like that. No explanation, no story, just a number. And here's the strange part. I didn't react. No shock, no questions. I just reached for my phone, opened my banking app, like I'd done it 100 times before. It felt automatic, like brushing your teeth. That's when something inside me shifted. Not loud, not dramatic, quiet, but clear. I remember thinking, when did this become normal?
That moment, did it feel different from the others?
Yeah, because for the first time, I didn't feel like her daughter. I felt like a solution, a backup plan. Like if anything went wrong in her life, I was the system that fixed it. And I don't think she meant it that way. That's what makes this harder.
So it wasn't anger.
No, not at first. It was something heavier than anger. It was realization, like waking up slowly and seeing something that's been in front of you the whole time. I sat there in the dark, phone in my hand, and I realized I didn't even know when it started. There wasn't a clear beginning, just small moments that added up. Small yes after small yes, until saying yes became who I was.
How long had it been like that?
Long enough that I stopped noticing how it made me feel. Long enough that helping didn't feel like a choice anymore. It felt like a role. And once you become the person everyone depends on, it's really hard to step out of that role without feeling like you're doing something wrong. If you're listening right now, and this feels a little too familiar, stay with me. Because I used to think this was just what family looks like. I used to believe that love meant always showing up, no matter the cost. But what I learned at the end of this changed that belief completely. Welcome to MTP, MindTalk Podcast. My name is Emma.
And I'm Alex.
And today, we're not just talking about money. We're talking about what it turns into when love, guilt, and responsibility get mixed together so quietly. You don't even realize you're trapped in it. What I didn't understand back then was that nothing about this started as a problem. It started as something that felt right.
So in the beginning, it didn't feel heavy.
Not at all. It felt like growth. Like I had finally become someone my family could rely on. I remember my first real paycheck. I didn't spend it on myself. I didn't celebrate. I sent part of it home, and I felt proud. Not pressured, not used. Proud. Because growing up, money was always tight. Not dramatic, just constant. We didn't talk about it much, but you could feel it in small ways. The way my mom would hesitate before buying something. The way bills were always handled later. So when I could help, it felt like I was fixing something.
Like you were changing the story.
Exactly. And the first time my mom asked me directly, it didn't feel like a burden. She said, "We're a little short this month." That was it. No pressure, no expectation. And I said yes, immediately. Because in my mind, that's what you do when you love your family. You show up.
So when did it start to shift?
It didn't shift all at once. That's the dangerous part. It changed slowly, in ways that felt reasonable each time. The second request came a few weeks later, then again the next month. Each time, there was a reason. Something that made it hard to say no without feeling like you were the problem. Just this once. We'll figure things out after this. You're the only one who understands.
That kind of language, it pulls you in.
It does. Because it doesn't sound like pressure. It sounds like trust. And when someone trusts you, you don't want to break that. So you keep saying yes, even when you start to feel something is off. I think the moment it really changed wasn't when the amounts got bigger. It was when the tone changed. The requests became shorter. Less explanation, more assumption. Like the answer was already decided.
So it stopped being a question.
Yeah, it became a pattern. And I became part of that pattern. I didn't wait to be asked anymore. Sometimes I would send money before anyone said anything, just to avoid that moment, that conversation, that feeling that I might disappoint them. And here's something I didn't admit to myself at the time. I wasn't just helping. I was managing their emotions, trying to keep everything calm, trying to make sure no one felt stressed or disappointed or let down.
That's a lot to carry.
It is. But when you're inside it, it doesn't feel like a lot. It just feels like responsibility. Like this is your role now. And roles are hard to question when everyone around you accepts them. But deep down, something was changing. I started checking my bank account more often. Not because I didn't have money, but because I didn't feel secure anymore. I started thinking twice before buying things for myself. Not because I couldn't afford them, but because I felt like that money might be needed somewhere else.
So even when you weren't sending money, it was still affecting you.
Exactly. It wasn't just about the transactions anymore. It was about how I started seeing my own life. Like I was always on standby, always ready, always responsible. And that's when I realized something quietly, something I didn't want to say out loud. Gratitude had turned into expectation, and expectation had turned into pressure. Not loud pressure, not obvious, but constant. And once something becomes constant, you stop questioning it. You just live inside it. And the thing about living inside a pattern like that is you don't realize it's a pattern until something breaks it.
What broke it for you?
Not one big moment. It was small contradictions, things that didn't match the story I'd been believing. I remember one afternoon, I was scrolling without thinking, just passing time. And I saw a photo. My family at a restaurant. Not a simple place, somewhere nice. There were drinks on the table, plates that looked untouched but expensive. Everyone smiling. And for a second, I just looked at it like anyone else would. But then something didn't sit right. Because 3 days before that, my mom had told me they were struggling, that things were tight, that they needed help.
So your first reaction was confusion.
Yeah, not anger. Not yet. Just confusion. I tried to explain it away. Maybe it's a special occasion. Maybe someone else paid. Maybe I'm overthinking. Because it's easier to doubt yourself than to question people you love. But then, it didn't stop there. I started noticing more things. Small details. My brother talking about taking time off work. Casually. My mom mentioning something she bought, like it wasn't a big deal. Little moments that, on their own, meant nothing. But together, they told a different story.
A story you didn't want to see.
Exactly. Because if that story was true, then everything I thought I was helping with wasn't what I believed. I remember sitting with that feeling for days. Not confronting anyone, just watching. Listening more carefully. And then one night, I saw something that made it impossible to ignore. A receipt. It wasn't even meant for me. It just showed up in a group chat by accident. A purchase. Not necessary, not urgent. Just something they wanted. And it wasn't small.
What did that do to you?
It didn't explode. It sank. Slowly. Because in that moment, I realized something I couldn't unsee. They weren't in crisis. They were just comfortable relying on me. And that realization felt heavy in a different way. Not like anger, more like disappointment mixed with clarity. Because it forced me to look at everything differently. Every message, every "we need help," every "just this once."
So the meaning of those moments changed.
Completely. Before I heard urgency. Now I heard expectation. Before I saw need. Now I saw habit. And then the hardest thought came. Not about them. About me. What have I been supporting all this time? Because if they weren't trying to change anything, if nothing was actually getting better, then what was my role? I wasn't solving a problem. I was maintaining it.
That's a painful realization.
It is, because it makes you question your own intentions. I thought I was helping them move forward, but maybe I was just making it easier for them to stay the same. And here's the part I didn't expect. I didn't feel powerful in that moment. I felt small, because I saw how easy it had been for me to step into that role and never step out. That night, I got another message. Simple, familiar. "Hey, can you send something this week?" And I just stared at it, longer than usual. Not because I didn't know what to do, but because, for the first time, I understood what that yes actually meant. And it didn't feel like love anymore. It felt like avoidance. And once I saw that my yes was just a way to avoid the truth, I couldn't unsee what came next.
What changed after that?
Not them. That's the first thing I had to accept. Nothing on their side suddenly became clearer or more honest. The shift happened inside me. I started asking a different question. Not, why are they asking so much? But, why do I keep saying yes, even when it doesn't feel right?
That's a hard question to sit with.
It is, because it takes the focus off them and puts it back on you. And for a while, I didn't like the answer. I realized something uncomfortable. I wasn't just helping because they needed me. I was helping because I needed to feel needed.
So it wasn't just about money anymore.
No, it was about identity, being the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who always shows up. Because if I stopped being that person, who was I in the family? And then it hit me even deeper. Every time I sent money, I was avoiding something. A conversation, a boundary, a moment where I would have to say, "This doesn't work for me."
So the money wasn't solving the problem.
It was delaying it. Exactly. It kept everything quiet, smooth, comfortable, but not honest. And the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. This wasn't just about them depending on me. It was about me, making it easy for them to keep depending on me. Here's the truth that stayed with me. When love starts to feel like a transaction, something has already gone wrong.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, if the connection between us depends on what I give, then it's not just love anymore. It's an exchange, unspoken but very real. And I didn't want to believe that, because it changes how you see everything. Not just your family, but your place in it. I thought I was being generous, but maybe I was just trying to hold everything together in a way that wasn't sustainable.
That's a different kind of responsibility.
Yeah, it's not the kind you're given. It's the kind you quietly take on and then don't know how to put down. And once I understood that, I knew something had to change. Not them, me. And once I accepted that the change had to start with me, the next step wasn't clarity. It was fear.
Fear of what?
Of what would happen if I stopped playing the role they were used to. Because it's one thing to realize the truth. It's another thing to act on it. The next time my mom reached out, the message looked the same. Simple, familiar, expected. And I sat there. Longer than I ever had before. Not because I didn't understand what she was asking, but because I understood exactly what my answer would change. And for the first time, I said something different. I can't do that this time.
How did it feel right after?
Quiet. Too quiet. There was a pause, longer than usual. And in that silence, I felt everything at once. Relief, because I finally said what I needed to say. And guilt, because it felt like I had just broken something. She didn't argue. She didn't get angry. But I could feel the shift. The tone changed. The space between us became more noticeable.
Did that make you question your decision?
Of course, because when you've been the one holding things together, stepping back feels like you're the one letting things fall apart. But over time, something became clearer. Nothing actually collapsed. No crisis happened. No disaster followed. What changed was how they saw me and how I saw myself. I realized that what I thought was support had slowly turned into something else, something that didn't allow growth. Not for them, and not for me.
So the boundary didn't fix the relationship.
No, it revealed it. It showed me what was real, without the layer of constant giving. And here's what I've come to understand. Helping someone doesn't mean removing every obstacle from their life. Sometimes it means letting them face things on their own. If you are always the one stepping in, always the one solving things, then nothing around you is actually changing. It's just being managed. And the hardest part is this. When you start setting boundaries, it doesn't feel strong. It feels uncomfortable. It feels like you're doing something wrong. But I had to remind myself of one simple truth. If a relationship only feels good when you're giving, then something deeper needs to be questioned.
That's not easy to accept.
No, it's not. But it's necessary. Because at some point, you have to decide whether you want to keep being the solution for everyone else or finally start being responsible for your own life too. So if you're listening right now, and part of this feels familiar, just pause for a moment and ask yourself one question. Not what they need from you, but what this is costing you. Because sometimes the most honest thing you can say isn't yes. It's a quiet, uncomfortable no. Looking back now, I don't think the hardest part was giving money. It was slowly losing the line between love and responsibility without realizing it.
Yeah, because it didn't happen all at once.
Exactly. It happened quietly, one small yes at a time, until I stopped asking myself why I was saying yes at all. And that's what I want to leave you with today. Not a rule, not a perfect answer, just a thought. Sometimes what feels like love is actually fear. Fear of disappointing people, fear of conflict, fear of being seen differently. And when you make decisions from that place, you don't just give your time or your money. You slowly give away your sense of control over your own life.
That's a heavy realization.
It is, but it's also freeing once you see it clearly. Because then you can start making different choices. Not bigger ones, just more honest ones. So here are 3 simple things you can take with you. First, support doesn't mean solving everything. If someone never learns to stand on their own, your help becomes a habit, not a solution. Second, if you are always the one stepping in, ask yourself why. Is it truly about helping or about avoiding something uncomfortable? And third, boundaries are not rejection. They are a way of protecting what matters, including yourself.
That's something a lot of people need to hear.
Yeah. And if this story felt familiar in any way, I want to ask you something simple. Have you ever felt like the family ATM? Just answer honestly in the comments. It might help someone else realize they're not alone in this.
And we read those comments.
We really do. And if this episode gave you something to think about or helped you see your situation a little differently, please subscribe to MTP Podcast. That's how you support us and help us keep sharing stories like this.
More real conversations, No filters.
Thank you for being here. Take care of your boundaries and be honest with yourself. We'll see you in the next episode.